Happy Monday, everybody. It is
Happy Monday.
February 24th, and we are cutting it close to Election Day here in Ontario. Is everybody excited yet?
You're so excited. We can hear you from here.
Well, I'm excited. I love election time because it's our chance as Canadians, Ontarians, to actually have a voice and have our say. And I know typically those of us who are in the know understand that maybe our voice isn't as heard as loudly as we'd like it to, or perhaps there's maybe some fraudulent activity happening in the background. But at the same time, you've got to participate if you want to complain later on. So I am a big
That's the only reason.
Hey, you can't complain if you didn't take any action to do anything about it.
That is one other way of saying put up or shut up.
Put up or shut up. But also, if you want change to happen, you have to get out and take the action to make it happen. And not only that, you've got to stop repeating the same patterns as before, because that's just insanity. So if you want change, you got to do something differently. And that differently is voting outside the Borg, as I read today in a Substack by Jean Balfour. And the Borg, for those of you who don't know, blue, orange, red, green, that's the Borg. Those are the old-fashioned parties that the mainstream media wants you to vote for. But if you actually want change, you got to vote outside the Borg system. And so that's what tonight is about. We've got a special night for you because mainstream media is not allowing these voices to be heard. So we are going to.
That's what tonight is really about. Platforms, debates, live debates, platforms, news media. They're all shutting these people out, and they're doing this brand new thing, this brand new philosophy that they seem to just love. Well, they don't have a seat already, so they just can't be invited to debate, which seems to be a traitorous way of sabotaging free democracy. But we'll get into those people directly with them at a later date. Anyway. These people don't have a voice, or they're trying to be silenced, and we say nope. We've got a platform, so we're going to give the other voices a chance to speak and tell you what they're all about, so you have a good chance to an educated chance to vote.
Exactly.
That's right. So we're going to give you all the information, or as much as we can. So we're going to bring on with us Jean Balfour, Independent, and Florian Bros, our Ontario Party. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello, group.
Thanks for having us on.
Everybody.
We are expecting 2 more candidates to come on. They're just not with us yet. I'm not sure where they are. I'm trying desperately to reach them, as is Chu Chong in the background, Mr. Michael. So hopefully they will join us soon. But at the top of the show, we might as well get to know you gentlemen first, uninterrupted.
Yeah, you're all getting 2 minutes each anyway. So since you're right next to us at the top there, Jean, do you want to start and let us know who you are, who you're running for, and why you're running?
All right. Well, my name is Jean Balfour. I live in Fenelon Falls, which is north of Lindsay. I'm in the Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock riding. I have been in prior elections, once as a PPC candidate, twice as a Libertarian federal candidate, and 7 times as a provincial Ontario Libertarian Party candidate. I learned a long time ago that there's not a chance in hell that I'm ever going to get elected as one of the small parties. And I don't know if you know this, but if you looked up Elections Ontario right now, and you looked at the number of registered parties that are running in this election, you're going to find 23 of them. And the only people you're going to hear from the mainstream media, from the public government pulpits, from wherever, you're only going to hear from the Borg. The Borg stands for the blue, orange, red, and green parties. They are the ones that have the money. They have these subsidies from the Ontario government. They're actually getting paid from the Ontario government to be able to boost their campaigns, and that's why you see all kinds of signs, advertising from these organizations, because they're being paid by government funds, your tax dollars, to be able to promote their agenda, their ideas, above the other 19 parties, including the Ontario Party, and the Libertarians, and the Independents. We are the ones that are being pushed aside, censored, so that nobody wants to hear what we have to say. So I'm running as an independent this time, partially because I promised a friend of mine who lives in Lindsay that I would let him run as the Libertarian candidate this time. So he's going to do it. I promised that 4 years ago, and I'm going to give him the chance to be the Libertarian candidate in this riding. And it gave me a chance to be an independent so that I could speak what I believe to be the case right now. And that what I believe, it's been a long time coming, is that the Ontario, the governments at every level, all 4 levels of government, they're far too big, they're far too expensive, and they have far too much authority and control over our lives by a long shot. And until our citizens begin to understand that that is the core problem that we're all facing, we've allowed our governments to get far too big. Until we finally figure that out, everything else is window dressing. It's a byproduct of the problem, that the biggest problem is that we have too much government. So I'm a big fan of the Doge in the United States. They want the Department of Government Efficiency. I'd love to see that in Ontario, and I'm promoting that idea on my Substack. Because the Doge, we need to find a way to be able to take the government and cut it down to a size that we can afford, that will be effective for all of our citizens. Right now, we've got bureaucracies that are not servicing us effectively, and we need to change that. So that's why I'm standing up for this, for simple reason that we need to reduce the size of the government, the cost of the government, the scope of authority of the government, so all of us can regain the kind of Canada that I grew up with in the 60s and 70s. I'm 73 now, so you know, I saw Canada well before this behemoth is taken over across this country. I'm hoping that Mark Snow shows up. He's the current leader of the Ontario Libertarian Party. He's a friend of mine. I'll call him if you need me to call him to get him out here, because he's a buddy of mine, because we think along the same line. So yeah, I'll do that if you want me to do that for you.
We're on it. Our producer's on it right now, so we're good.
Good. Okay.
Thank you. So Florian, welcome to the show. Here's your 2 minutes. Who are you? Who are you running for, and why did you decide to run?
My name is Florian Bros. I was actually born in Switzerland, but my parents moved to Toronto when I was 6 months old. So I'm a Canadian citizen. I've been pretty much living in Canada my whole life. Yeah, I moved out of Toronto during the pandemic. It was a crazy time, and I guess I didn't really care about anything to do with the government till that time, until I realized my freedoms were taken away and all sorts of crazy things were happening. And I was pretty much yelling at my TV screen for a good year before I figured out I might as well, you know, do something besides yell at my screen. So I originally ran with for the PPC during the 2021 federal election in the riding of Lanark, Frontenac, and Kingston. And now I am running for the Ontario Party here in the provincial elections in Ontario for the Northumberland, Peterbourough South riding. I have a bachelor degrees in computer science and software engineering, and I have a master's of engineering in computer networks. So I'm a computer nerd. Never been a big fan of politics, but like I said, and like Gene was saying too, like you got to step up and do something, because it's ridiculous the way things are going. And I noticed quickly during the pandemic, I was messaging my MPP, I was messaging my MP saying like, what's going on? Why are these things happening? And they're just like, sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. And I'm like, well, what do we pay you for? Like, so much, seems like there's so much corruption, and like, it doesn't seem like they care about the welfare or the well-being of people, and they're just in it for some other purpose, which I'm not even going to get into. But yeah, and that's why I'm just a regular person, and I just want to make a difference, and that's why I'm running.
Right.
And that is the point of having you guys here, getting out of the Borg system. We know that the blue, orange, red, and green are, most of the people running in for those parties are career politicians. They're not the people like you and I. They don't really understand what's going on at the ground level, and that's you guys. And I think it's absolutely disgusting that all of these Meet Your Candidates nights are not inviting you guys to hear your voice. Because if we're meeting the candidates and this is supposed to be a democracy, everybody should have the opportunity to have their say.
Yes.
So I'm glad you're no longer yelling at your TV.
Yeah.
Gene,
That's
I feel
right.
like you have something you want to show us here.
So Florian, you don't know this about me, but I was a professional IT recruiter for 36 years.
Sweet.
I've interviewed over
Sweet.
10,000 IT professionals, including software engineers. And today I had a really interesting conversation. You and I need to talk. Had a really interesting conversation with a software engineering company in downtown Toronto. And they're using blockchain technology and AI technology to be able to address a lot of the problems that we're having with our electoral democracy. So you might find that these guys are doing some really, really interesting things. I'm also on a committee with the Canadian Citizens Care Alliance. We're 600 medical professionals and research scientists who are trying to use blockchain and AI technology to be able to fine-tune the processes associated with healthcare. You might find that
That's
interesting.
cool. Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, we should definitely chat. Sounds good.
Let's do that. Yeah.
So last show that we did, we focused a lot on the problems, which is great. We all are aware of problems, but if you're going to bring like, what is the biggest problem you see in government today? How would you fix that? And I also want to come back and visit each one of you on, so you're standing there in the House and you're going to introduce your first bill. What would you introduce? So those are just to get us started. This is going to be more of a conversational show. But you know, Florian, when you were yelling at your TV, what exactly were you yelling at certain points there?
Well, I was yelling. Well, first, so I was teaching with Conestoga College during the pandemic. I was teaching computer science courses from my basement. And then in November 2021, they sent me an email saying, give me your vaccine status. And I said, none of your damn business. And that was it for my job. So just the fact that they're making laws that, they're asking for private information. There's laws in Ontario that supposed to prevent people from inquiring about your private medical issues and stuff. And besides that, I'm getting fired because I did not reveal my vaccine status, as if I'm going to give someone COVID over a Zoom call from my basement to my students. Like, are you kidding me right now? So if I was in power or whatever in the government and I had to introduce a bill, it would be some sort of bill to, I feel like there's so much corruption with people, I don't know, either getting rich or having some sort of connection to these lobbyists or these like big pharma. Like, how can someone be started, quote, excuse my French, so stupid to make a law that you're going to fire people because they're not revealing their vaccine status when they're like literally in their basement teaching a Zoom course? Like, that's the first thing. It's just, and half these things, like when you're at the supermarket and there's a big, you know, sheet of glass or plexiglass between you and the cashier. Yeah, you could sneeze all you want all over the change and you're handing it to them around the glass. Like, it's just the most absolutely bizarre and ridiculous things we have to put up with. And like, who comes up with this and why are they going along with it? And like, that's what I want to cut down. And that's what I want to stop, because either people aren't using their brains, they're not having some, or they're being bought off. And like, to me, that's not cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What have you, Gene, what you got something in the ranty vein?
Yeah, no, I could talk for hours, guys. So be really careful, okay? In around 1920, or sorry, the year 2000, I was an IT recruiter in downtown Toronto. China, Hong Kong was starting to be merged back into the mainstream country, or at least the central country of China back then, as you remember. And so I began to see a lot of Chinese people coming from Hong Kong that are leaving Hong Kong because they didn't want to become part of the central government and the nation of China. And a lot of them, of course, didn't speak particularly good English, but I was asking a lot of them, you know, what would be your ideal employer? You know, who would you want to work for? Where do you want to go in your career? And almost all of them, to a man and a woman, said they wanted to work for the government. And I'm scratching my head. I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, why would anybody in their right mind want to work for the government? I mean, the government's just mostly losers and people are not productive that end up going to the government. They explained to me, they said in China, only the very best people, the top grades, the smartest people in the country end up getting into the government. So they attract the cream of the crop, the smartest people in the entire nation to govern the nation. And what do? It's a popularity contest, right? People who don't have they don't know anything. And yet, so we elect these people, and then we send them to Ottawa, or we send them to Queen's Park, and we expect them to make wise judgments on our part. Are you serious? And that's what we're living with today. We're living with a system where we're empowering people who don't have a clue about how and why they should be governing us. And so if you look at that kind of scenario, you say, well, why are we doing this? I mean, why are we letting our governments get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every year with people who are unproductive, not very smart, not really concerned about us? Why are we doing that? And so the only conclusion to that is, well, let's take away the size, the scope, and the cost of our government. Let's bring it down to a much smaller level. We've got debt levels that are crazy, almost $500 billion in Ontario alone. Like we're allowing this to happen because we're voting on the basis of a popularity contest, not on the basis of any but principles or any sound judgment. We're not doing any of that. It's a popularity contest. And as long as we continue to do that, we're going to continue to vote in people who are going to mess up our economy, our society, our nationality. All those things are going to continue. So the only option we have is to try to get enough people out there in Canada to recognize that the most serious problem we have is far too much government at all 4 levels of government. And until we fix that, then we're going to continue to repeat the same problems like that Einstein said. You keep doing the same things. It's a sign of insanity. Well, we have an insane economy here. We have an insane population of people that think it's going to get different because they vote the NDP or the Green or somebody else. So that's my comment.
Well, I love that. And, we say that all the time. Well, Chris especially talks about, the U.S. system, how not only are the politicians voted in, but so are your sheriffs and so are your judges. And yet our system doesn't think about that. They're just too busy appointing everybody. And as long as you're my friend, goes back to your popularity, right, then you get a job. And I was looking today at the number of candidates, what was it, 10 years ago, or maybe it was 15 years ago. Our government was actually, I think it was 10 to 20 people smaller than what it is right now. So our government, as you said, continues to grow. But where is the line or the expertise of these people coming into the jobs? Mm-hmm. A lot of them are just, my dad was in politics, so I'm now in politics, but they've never worked a day in their life in the healthcare system, and yet they're looking after the healthcare portfolio.
I feel like that was a very specific example.
It 100%
That's common.
is
very common.
David Piccini, not happy with you. And I'm sure he's not happy to hear from me lately because I've been sending him a lot of COVID vaccine text messages and emails lately. And I can
the story about New Zealand? You know about New Zealand?
Pardon?
You know the story about New Zealand?
No, I don't know
which one.
So 1985,
Uh-huh.
It turned out that New Zealand was giving jobs to people. It's almost like universal basic income. If you can't get a job, then you apply for a government job, and whether you have a job responsibility or not doesn't matter. You get a paycheck. So it got to a point where the amount of spending that they had was at 140% of their GDP for the nation. 140%, unsustainable, right? And they're hiding a lot of these things. Right. So New Zealand could no longer sell New Zealand bonds. The bonds kept going up in price and nobody would buy them over a period of time. So they went bankrupt as a nation. Right. And in 1985, after that, they had to look at the entire nation, how they were running the country. And they said, we can't afford this anymore. We're going to cut back the workforce, the size of our government by 40%, which is exactly what they did. They took a lot of roads where they had stop signs, and then they put in these roundabouts instead. So it was a better way to be able to cut their operating costs and achieve the same thing. And so what happened is that when they cut the size of their government, they became far more productive. And they also put in place a law that said they could not spend beyond your assigned budget. If they did that, people are in serious trouble. We don't have that law here. People spend like drunken sailors. They get away with it. Nobody tries to hold them accountable. And so that's the problem we're dealing with. We're dealing with the New Zealand problem. We're dealing with the same problem of Greece. Greece went through the same thing. Detroit went through the same thing. There's a lot of cities and states that have gone bankrupt because they overextended themselves with political responsibility, government responsibility. And we're running into exactly the same problem in our municipalities, in our provinces, and in our federal government. All three levels are going down the same path.
Right. I think we all agree on that point. Yeah. James is here. James from Direct Democracy. James, we're going to give you a couple of minutes to tell us about yourself. Tell us about Direct Democracy and why you decided to run. Go ahead.
Sure. Can you hear me? I don't know if this connection is good. Am I good to coming through?
We can hear you just fine.
Great. So, yeah, well, a long time ago, I would go inside polling booths to vote. And I would walk in to vote, and I couldn't vote for anyone because they're all bad. I'd go out to the car. I'd sit there. Well, I got to vote. So I go back in again, and I couldn't vote for anyone again. So because I was forced to vote for the lesser of the evils, I said, well, this has got to sting so that I know are actually going to do the best things for Canadians. So after me trying to start in party names, came across a gentleman in Toronto and Mississauga named Greg Vezina who started the None of the Above Direct Democracy Party. And this is about 15 years ago now, and he enlightened me about direct democracy and what it is and the definition of direct democracy. And right away, I dropped all my other plans, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to run with the direct democracy plan. And direct democracy is more a system of governance, is a bunch of mostly independents running under a I guess you can hear me still, just is loading here. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, so it's direct democracy is basically an independent movement that's under the umbrella of direct democracy, a system of about and to get behind. I don't know if you still hear me. Looks like it's going choppy on my end. Is it coming clear on your end?
No, we're losing you.
You're in and out. Are you able to hard plug into your internet?
Okay, James, we've lost you. We're going to get you to work with Michael behind the scenes to get your connection back. All right. So where were we? We were talking about New Zealand.
Yes. Well, about responsible government and financing and, staying within your budget. And I don't even know when and where that became acceptable for governments to overspend, because I know it's not acceptable in my household to overspend and cause possible bankruptcy. So why and how are we as Canadians and Ontarians allowing our governments to do the same thing? It makes zero sense to me. And there was a time when our governments didn't have debt. So what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, it's so silly. It's like, imagine you have a credit card and you have like this crazy balance on like $10,000, and then you're like, I think I'm just gonna make that 40,000 or 50,000, and then you just keep piling it on. And it's like, at what point is someone gonna be like, you're not allowed to do that? You're supposed to be paying off that debt, not making it bigger. Right? Like, at what point is your credit card going to be like, yeah, sorry, $5 billion on your credit card is unacceptable. We're going to cut you off. So then how come the government can just like unlimited funds? And like, it's like, I don't know, what is it? Like, even I looked at the debtclock.ca and it was like $400 billion. And it's like, at what point do we say, hey, no, like this is enough?
exactly.
Well, I
So
just
it-
realized that the government, they are not liable for any of the expenditures. They can spend until the cows come home. If they're in office for a few years and they're gone again, it doesn't really matter. So there is
How
no
do I get
accountability. There's nothing to stop them from doing it.
how do I get that from my credit card company?
right?
Yeah, we can talk about that, but we'll talk about Bitcoin. How's that, man?
Well, talking about Bitcoin, that's a digital currency. And we know that Doug Ford's government was talking about bringing that in. And I know if you go on the Ontario government's website, all over it is talking about digital ID and how amazing this is going to be and how much more convenient. And I know a lot of our listeners, as well as us, we've done a lot of deep dives into the money system and digital ID and biodigital convergence. And once you get into that system, it's hard to get out. It's almost like building your own little digital quarantine camp. Is that something that you guys are proponents of, the digital ID coming in, or is that something that you guys are sort of against?
I'm an owner of Bitcoin. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not digital money with the way the government wants to do it. Bitcoin is free money. It's free in the sense that it's not regulated. It's not controlled by the government at all. It's run on a blockchain platform, and it is with a high level of security. Bitcoin, there's only 20 million coins that are allowed, so you cannot expand the supply of Bitcoin like our money system today. Right? We have a money system today. They can print money as long as they want. Doesn't stop it. One of the reasons why we have inflation is because you've got inflation, a fiat monetary system that you can print and expand indefinitely. Then you're going to have inflation. And you're going to have very serious problems like our debt problem. Bitcoin is the answer to that. It is the right answer to that. Digital currencies controlled by the government under their design of a digital system would only make things worse than we already have today. But Bitcoin is a very secure platform.
Mm-hmm. Florian, digital ID, yes, no? Y'all for it?
Well, like he was saying, if it's controlled by the government, no thank you. Because if they could freeze the truckers' bank accounts now, but like at least the truckers could still use their cash and go out and buy groceries if they needed to, even though they shouldn't have froze their bank accounts. But if we all have to pay digitally, and they're just like, flag this guy's account, he said something bad about me. Like, how are you supposed to live? How are you supposed to buy anything? To me, it's very dangerous to have something controlled by the government that could affect people's lives so incredibly much.
But our money is already controlled by the government. Don't you realize that all transactions that occur that are not occurring at the consumer level are all digital? All transactions that are digital, every one of them, they're all digital, 100%. And the creation of the money supply by the Bank of Canada is 100% digital. They go, the guys at the Bank of Canada go to a computer, the government sells them bonds. They pay them cash. The government gets the cash. It goes off and spends it the way it is. We are already in a digital monetary system, whether we like it or not, and we have been for a long time. It's just the way it's being implemented, the controls that are in place. And I certainly would not put the controls ever for a government official of any sort.
Well, I mean, it's true that we're using Interact and digital banking and whatnot, but that's a far, far cry from digital currency. And that is, we're heading down that road. Bank of Canada has said they have no plans of introducing digital currency. They've said that 4 times publicly, while at the same time they've been working on it since 2016 through Project Jasper. So, and I do agree that there are benefits to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but at the same time, we know that they're building the world coin on the Ripple engine right now. So the concern is, and I'd love to hear from you on this, the concern is that we're actually just helping build out that infrastructure for them.
I guess the first question I would ask is, what do you mean by digital currency? What is your understanding of it? And because you're talking about features of a particular kind of financial system. And there are different digital currencies out there with different features, different control mechanisms, different mechanisms of trade and exchange. And that's what I'm talking about. It's too easy for us to talk about a term like digital currencies. Digital currencies is the term that scares the daylights out of people because they don't understand it. But once you get into the understanding of how a Bitcoin platform and blockchain technology works, compared to what they call the shit coins, which are all the other ones that are controlled by people who want to make some money, or the government who's got digital banking security. Anytime you've got a central control of money in the monetary system, whether it's the government or whether it's somebody who's running, some new platform, you're always going to have what they call third-party risk, because you don't know what the third party is going to do to you. And the government is the one that you can trust the very least every time.
My concern is if you don't have it physically in your hand to trade with, then the government has control every time, because they control your access to hydro, to electricity, to the internet. And at any time, they can flick the switch and your internet goes down. And we know that because we experience it all the time on our show when we're saying things they don't like us to say.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think countries like Puerto Rico have accepted Bitcoin as the standard money? Why do you think they did that?
Well, like we said, we are pretty sure that we're training the government systems on the Bitcoin. And I know a lot of people that carry the Bitcoin and they have their little wallets on them, but there's nothing that backs that Bitcoin up. It's again,
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about Puerto Rico. Why do you think
I don't
the
know
government
about Puerto Rico, so I can't answer to Puerto Rico's politics.
There's several countries in the world that have already adopted Bitcoin as their standard, and it's worthwhile understanding why they did that. And most of them are clients of the International Monetary Fund, and the International Monetary Fund is one of the most corrupt institutions in the entire world, banking institutions. Once you get down that rabbit hole and learn about the IMF and understand how these nations become so indebted and controlled by the IMF, once you get down that rabbit hole, you'll understand why a nation would actually adopt Bitcoin.
Yeah, we've done shows on the IMF and the BIS and the CBDCs and how the UN is currently wanting to move into backing up currency based on carbon and water and using that as a weapon against us for the banking system. So we do understand all of that. We've done shows on it. But as far as I'm concerned, any currency that you don't hold in your hand, and that currency could be labor, could be food, it could be trading services. But if you don't have access to that currency and the government can keep you from going or accessing it, that's a big problem.
Okay.
We got Mark in.
We got two
Hey, how you doing?
Perfect timing. We're wildly off topic here. So, James, it looks like you're back. Hopefully your connection's good. Mark, we're going to give you, now that you're here, we're going to give you your couple minutes just to introduce yourself, your party, and why you're running for government. Want to go ahead?
Well, first off, I'm very sorry. I had two
I think the
booked tonight.
connection's good now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Good.
yeah.
I had two booked tonight. I'm Mark Snow, leader of the Libertarian Party. Hi, Gene. I know a few of the people on here.
Yeah.
We are running in this election to promote freedom and liberty, to promote less government, to promote the idea that you, as an individual, can be more powerful than government. This is what we believe in. This is what we're striving for. And hopefully we'll get to some of that discussion tonight. Thank you very much.
Good to see you, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you.
James, did you want to finish your introduction? Because you were in and out and in and out.
And he's out.
Okay.
Sure. I'm on the fly here. I'm actually campaigning for Kinsley Coda, who's running as an independent in Scarborough Gilwood.
Yes,
he wanted some help, so I left my riding to help him out. Say again?
We had Kingsley on the show Thursday night.
Oh, good. So yeah,
I think we're running a delay with you, James.
And he really likes the whole independent thing. He likes the fact that if he really feels it. Was it still choppy?
Yeah, we're losing you again.
Oh no.
All right.
No, I'm gonna reboot. There's ghosts in my computer tonight. No one wants democracy, I think. So hold on, let's try to fix this.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Right. So, Mark, since you're just joining us, we've been talking about things like digital ID and other things. What's your plan? You know, you get elected. There's so much to rail against in the current government. You know, what is it you think you'd want to tackle first?
In the debates that we've been allowed to attend, one of the key opening statements that I would make is that on the 27th of February, what does your vote mean? And what does your MPP do for you? And one of our key things that we talk about this time is that when we elect an MPP, they don't represent you. You give them your vote on the 27th. After that, you're not needed. They are loyal to the party. They are loyal to the premier. They are loyal to the ministers and the whips. They have no loyalty to you. They don't work for you. And I was very, very keen to point that out, that this is what's wrong. Plus, your MPP has zero power. They have the power to bow to their masters, and they don't serve you. So our policy, simply put, is this, is that we will empower your MPP with all the powers at Queen's Park because you elect them to work for you, and they don't have none of that power. So if we really want to change how the system of Ontario is governed, then why don't we start with working with the MPP that actually is elected by the people from within the riding and has all the power to do so. That's the first key thing to settle, take back government. As for digital ID, it has a purpose, but it has no use in government.
I like that. So, Florian, you're also representing a party, the Ontario Party. Is your party liking the whip system, or are you opposite?
No, that's
And
one
before
of.
you answer, I'd like to remind you that we're in your riding.
Oh.
So you're actually just trying to woo us as well. So you do a good job here.
No, so that's one of the key things I mentioned as well is my party does not employ a party whip. So I am what I said in the past debate I had on Thursday is the Borgs can't do anything, right? Because like Mark said, as after election day, they do their own thing and they don't care about their constituents. So. And even if they did, a lot of them do care, but there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. Like they can want to stand up for the people, but then if they want to stay in their party and not get kicked out, they have to, like Mark said, bow to the leader and bow to the party line. Otherwise, they get in trouble. So, just like the Libertarian Party, our party does not employ a party whip, so we're the best position to actually represent our constituents because we don't have to bow down, and we won't, because our job is literally to represent so how are we supposed to possibly even do our job if we can't, speak up for the people? So yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. Yeah, and there's actually a federal case about that that set precedent, People versus Littlejohn. And basically, the Supreme Court ruled that MPs are not beholden to their people, and so it's really an honor system at this point. And smoke and mirrors, I think, in a lot of cases with MPs because they don't really care what you think. And you're right. You guys all agree with Muammar Gaddafi that the party system is a way to rob the people of freedom and democracy. But here's my big question for all of you. I am skeptical. When Jody proposed this show, I was very skeptical. Like, what, just like a car salesman, he's a nice guy, but he's still a car salesman. You guys are now you're going to be politicians. And I know that it's been said around that you don't have a hope because you're not in a big party, but I think people are fed up. So I think anything's on the table at this point. So what happens if you actually get in? God forbid that you win your seats. How are you going to hold your own against some of the darkest people in Canada? Oh, Jean in the back, or no, Florian in the back there. Yeah. Either you have to go to the bathroom or you got a good answer.
No, I have this. It might be a silly idea, but I have this idea called because a big thing that bugs me is corruption. Like a lot of people want to be politicians or they're career politicians because it's so lucrative and they can do these backdoor deals and be corrupt and become millionaires. And like, dude, that's not the purpose of your position. So like, to me, I want to get rid of that. But then, like, I was thinking about the Simpsons episode where, like, Krusty the Clown said, they drove a dump truck of money up to my house. I'm not made out of stone. So I'm like, okay, like, if that happens to me, how am I going to tackle that? So I was thinking of this idea, whether it's legal or not, I don't know, but I'd make a website and call it the Bribe Wall of Shame. And so to discourage, during my campaigning, I'm like, I'm not taking any bribes, but like, it's easy to say when you're not being bribed. But so I would make this website. So to discourage people from even trying to bribe me, anyone that tries to do a backdoor deal thing, I'd put it on this website so people could see the people that are trying to be shady. And well, that's just an idea I had, but like, I can't stand it. But like I said, like, it's hard to be on the other side and be like, and if someone did drive a dump truck of money up to my house, I would hope to be able to say, no, this is ridiculous. This is exactly what I was standing against. But yeah, that's just an idea I had. If anyone has any other ideas, I'd definitely like to hear it. But yeah, I think we need to get corruption out. And it's hard to represent the people when obviously dump trucks of money are coming up to people, and that's what's, that's how people make their decisions. Like, okay, well, I'll take this money, so I'll do whatever you said. Who cares about my constituents, right?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think you're going to be facing pressure that normal, good, honest, integrous people won't face normally. I mean, you're up against some really treacherous people.
Yeah.
In my opinion, there's never been a bigger hive of scum and villainy. But that's just me.
Go ahead, Mark.
It's interesting. The question is, what are you going to do if you win as an independent? And like I said the other night, it's nothing. We already have. Do you know that there's an independent in the current Ontario legislature right now? Mm-hmm. And you know how she got there. I only learned of this a couple weeks ago. Just remember this, independents don't control the House. They don't control the whip. They don't control the legislature floor, times, debates, or anything else like that. Independents are people who are not with the particular party system, are given their slots and times in which they can talk about things. It is such a controlled environment. I mean, we say decentralize Queen's Park, empower your MPP to avoid the conflict of interest that you're talking about, truckloads of money backing up. The way that we make MPPs accountable is we have recall legislation that there will be no more need for a general election. A term will be 5 years, and at any time with 71% of the vote, if the people can put together enough votes that you can recall your MP and hold a general election in your riding. And the other way that makes the system work for the people is that we simply elect a board of governors within the riding that's going to complete all land use and planning. Minister or the MPP will have the signing authority for land use and planning. However, he's going to be governed by an equal amount of votes on the board. He will still have the authority, but an equal amount of citizen representation from the riding, from the community, from the 5-6 towns or province or that are in the riding. That will be the board that governs the riding. The minister is just the MPP is just the assigning authority. So the quicker we can get to that, and that's all very easily done with the Municipal Act. It's all easily changed within the Municipal Act. I have wrote the policy on it. And at the end of the day, it is completely doable, completely 100% within our Constitution. And it will decentralize Queen's Park's power. And that's the most important thing. Your vote needs to matter. Right now, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
The direct democracy, is that not something that they were working on as well, James, but through a computerized or internet voting system for the people?
Yeah, if you can hear me.
Yep.
I mean, I could probably say 3 words, then it cuts off. I'm here to ruin your show, so. Can you hear me now?
kick you off again.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You can hear me? Okay. Well, anyways, yeah. So we built a direct democracy system. I'll say this quickly before this thing goes freezy on us, okay? But we built it so that anything that any government contract, any funds that were given to any party or any individual or any company would be there open sourced to see who took that money. Now, I'm not sure how much you're hearing of what I'm saying. Hopefully you are hearing all of it, but yeah, so we had it set up so everything would be 100% transparent. So anything that was spent or anything that was given to anyone, any company, any person, any politician, it would be right there for someone to see. And they say, okay. And it would also say where that money went and what contractor was given that money even deeper. If a company is awarded and as a subcontractor, it would also show who got that money as well. So that's what we worked on. And that's why I think direct democracy, a system of governance, but it's also a brand that all these smaller parties eventually can get behind, because if all the smaller parties don't get together, it's like, I would use the David and Goliath analogy, but David actually won, so I can't. So we have to it's more like an ant against Goliath with no slingshot. Okay, so like we need to do something better. Like we got to work together, choose a brand. I lean towards direct democracy because if you Google direct democracy or YouTube direct democracy, it explains what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And under the umbrella of direct democracy, a whole bunch of independents could get together and go ahead.
Yeah, I think the Switzerland government runs on direct democracy, I believe, where the people have a direct say and they can vote on issues. And then your representative.
Yeah, that's correct. Jean is very familiar with it too.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Right.
Go ahead, Jean. You had your hand up.
Yeah, if you think of Switzerland, for example, there was no.
Go ahead.
Well, so the Ontario Libertarian Party has been around for 50 years. This year is the 50th anniversary of the Ontario Libertarian Party. In those 50 years, the Ontario Libertarian Party has not elected a single MPP. Same thing with the federal party, almost 50 years, never elected a single MP. And so to talk about the Ontario Libertarian Party or the Ontario Party or any other party on this podcast, they've never held office, not once in their history. And if you look at historically the Ontario Libertarian Party, they never even get 2% of the popular vote overall. It's rare, very rare. Ontario Party, I have a friend, Kirsten Kelly. She got 8% when she ran the very first time for the Ontario Party, but she didn't get elected, and she really thought she would get elected. Mm-hmm. The Direct Democracy Party, I don't know you, but you're a small party, and your chances of getting elected are about the same as everybody else in this podcast. And so to talk about us making a change in government is a joke. It's an outright joke. So the only way you're going to change things out there is you got to change the political culture. You got to get people to realize that we really have serious problems. And when they go to the polls and they look at voting for the blue, orange, red, or green parties, any one of them, they are the problem. You're actually endorsing the problem when you vote for them. The only way you're going to be able to change that is to say, okay, I'm not going to vote for any of those people. I'm going to vote for the idea of having less government. I want to get a lot of people. In fact, what I did the other night when I went to the all candidates debate, I didn't address the audience. I addressed our provincial MP. She's a conservative. She's held a conservative seat in our riding for 22 years. She's going to win again. So I said, Laurie Scott, I'm lobbying you right now because I know I'm not getting elected. I'm lobbying you to go to Queen's Park, work with us, to represent us with the things that are most important. And one of the things that's most important to us today is we've got far too much government, far too many regulations, far too many laws, far too many taxes. And unless you do that, firstly, you're not serving us. You're not doing what you're democratically elected to do. So we could sit here all day long and blue sky about what we're going to do when we get elected, but it's not going to happen. I don't care what you say.
So tell me, Gene, why would we give you a platform to talk then? What's the point? Are we wasting our time here tonight?
No, the whole point is I'm trying to get a message out. My only reason why, and I tell everybody, I don't ask for votes. I don't ask for money. I don't ask for any support. I never do. After this is my 11th time running, 11 times now, okay? After the third time, I realized I would never get elected as a small party guy. So then I realized, well, what am I going to do? Why am I doing this? And I realized that the only way I'm going to do it is changing the political culture. And that's why I use it. I write a Substack. You've seen the Substack. I've written 380 Substacks in the last 200 years, or the last 3 years, I should say. And I use this as a platform to talk to people like you, to tell you that our biggest problem is too much government. And until we start working on that particular issue, everything else we're talking about is window dressing. It's not they're all small stuff. The big stuff is we got to get people to agree that our biggest government is too much government.
Well, I agree with you that we do have too much government, but I'm also optimistic, and I've been praying a lot to God. And I think a lot of people have seen a lot of problems in the world, and that the problems seem to be rotating in those bigger governments. And I think people are ready to discuss change. They're ready to see change. And I think a lot of people are like me. They're praying for change. And the only way to make that happen is to change what we've been doing. And that is vote for the smaller party, vote for the independents, because they will be our voice. You can't change things if you don't, one, believe in change, and you can't change things if you don't take action to change. So that's why I wanted to have you guys all here, because I believe that we are, whether it's this election or the next one, we're on the precipice of change. And I believe that if people can hear your voices, because it doesn't help that the media acts like you guys don't exist. So if people can hear your voices and understand they do have another option, we might actually see change. And it might only start with one or two people. And I was cheering the loudest, and Tom Marazzo, I was with him at the last election, and we were cheering when the lady got in. I believe she's from Haldimand, Norfolk, I think. And she was an independent, and she used to be part of the Conservative Party, and now she's an independent, and she ran, and her Conservative MPP that she used to support, I think she was his administration, he actually got out and helped her campaign, and she won. Now, whether there was tomfoolery in the background or not, I don't know. But at the end of the day, she wasn't part of the Borg parties anymore. She left, and people listened to her voice, and they championed her in. And I believe more and more people are ready to champion in somebody outside of the Borg party, and that's you guys. So,
well, here's the thing, Jody. Jody, one thing is I got to ask you is that if she got elected and she's going to a Legislative Assembly of Ontario and there's 124 people sitting in those seats, there's a single vote out of 124 seats, a single vote out of 124 seats to vote for legislation and bills that are coming through. How much influence do you think she's going to have at 1 out of 124 votes?
I'm not worried about how much influence or can she make a change. The fact that she's got a voice at that table is something. And eventually we'll have 5 people sitting at the table, and then we'll have 100 people sitting at the table. You got to start somewhere, and now is the time. Florian, I see you cheering. Mark, I see you cheering. Do you guys have something to say on that?
I literally, Gene and I agree on a lot of things, and a lot of things what he says is true, but I don't want to use the word, but I'm going to use it. I haven't given up hope. I believe, like you, since 2022 in the Freedom Convoy, which I was arrested, by the way, since then, and even in the upload and the uptick to this election, the amount of reach out that I've had both on the party side from the candidates that we have, we only have 17 candidates running. The amount of email requests that I'm getting coming in has quadrupled, 10 times the volume. I spend most of my days answering emails and running out to the riding. There is a change coming. It is afoot. I don't know if it's going to be the New Blue or the Ontario Party or the massive amount of independents like the VoteChange.org. It's phenomenal that people are paying attention and not just going, I'm going to pick the worst of the best, right? So are the best of the worst. I think that change is coming, and I'll disagree with Gene on that. I understand what he's saying, but I think we're here for the long haul.
Yeah. Florian, what do you think?
Well, same thing. I can't see into the future, but I'm like you. I'm an optimist. My glass is always 3/4 full. So if it's not this time, it's going to be next time. So it's coming. It's just and people are going to wake up eventually. It's just a matter of time. So we'll be here.
And I think people need to hear that we can make change. The more people here say no, 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 the more they get stuck in, okay, then I better vote for the Borg so that my vote counts. But the more they hear more people saying, no, no, I want change. I want somebody else. I want another option. And you guys are giving it to them. I think we're going to see that. And, last time it was 8%. Maybe this time it'll be 12%. But we're seeing those increases happen. We saw in the federal election, the PPC, we saw their numbers rise from one to the next election. We saw the Ontario Party rise. We saw Kristen Kelly take 8% of the vote in the Peterbourough North area. Those are encouraging numbers.
Did you know that in 2018 we ran 117 candidates, and Gene was a big part of that, and nobody ever heard of us? We were told that if you get a full slate, we'll have you on. Gene was the chairman at the time. I was his vice chairman. And we went to the media, and they absolutely refused to have anything to do. They wouldn't even take our money. They wouldn't even allow us on anything.
I got Alan Small on the agenda with Steve Paikin. So, and I told Steve Paikin, the agenda, people are aware of that. So I know Steve, so I called him, had a coffee with him, and I said, look, if we can get a full slate of candidates, I want to put Alan Small on your show. And he did it for me. That's the only media organization of the mainstream that actually did it for us. He followed through, but he only did it for 10 minutes.
But the other thing is people aren't necessarily turning to mainstream media anymore for their news. More and more people are turning to social media. So if you guys can get the word out there and you're optimistic, and you educate people on change, I think we're going to see a tidal wave happen. I really do.
Right. And, you look back to the 2020, you gauge public responses. It looked like, maybe 20% were aware of what's going on in the government and actually cared. And it was 80% that were fully bought into the narrative. Here we are 5 years later. It has flipped. I know that all the indicators now at this point say that there's only about 20 to 30 people who still aren't aware and are. So it's not, I don't think it's a matter of giving them another option. It's a matter of taking their hand and saying it's okay to break the mold and it's okay to vote outside of what you've already known. Education has happened. Awareness has happened. So I do believe in this new time, especially with everything else on the table. I mean, we're at a time when you can talk about clones and UFOs and people don't think you're nuts anymore. And that to me is nuts. But so things have changed. Public perception has changed. And I do believe that there is a chance that anything could happen at this point, right? James, you're back and you look like you're not choppy.
I can move like this a bit. So make your, no, I think I'm good now. But, well, I'm here. Yeah, I'm trying to ruin your show. I've done a good job ruining your show so far. So let me ruin the country, too, and start a political party that maybe we can do something.
That's a terrible
but
sales
ruin it in a good way, right?
Yes, ruining it in a good way.
It's funny you say that because I think politics and marketing is a very similar thing. Very, very similar. So I tell lots of people, like, if we want to go to get a burger, let's say you had the best burger in the whole world. And you're like, oh man, you gotta try this burger. It's the best burger ever. And, oh yeah, yeah. You gotta try it. I'm like, okay, where do we go get the burger? I don't know. Okay. Well, how do I go buy the burger? Oh, I don't know. We need to sell the burger. We need to get the brand. We need to get people behind something they know, they're familiar with. And I do believe direct democracy, that brand, like a big red D with a maple leaf. It looks like the Liberal symbol because, people will go to Tim Hortons and they'll probably go to a place called Blim Blortons because humans are very, like, they're used to doing the same thing. They're very simple. We're very simple creatures. We like doing the same things over and over again, even if it's insanity. So we have to do that same thing. And I think that if all these smaller groups could just get together, do one push, I describe it like shooting an arrow with a very, very sharp point, and we're all behind that one arrow, we'll have a lot better chance than all of us throwing peas at a brick wall.
Yes.
So, like, that's why we all have to get together under one brand and push forward. Because, I mean, I agree with Gene in many aspects that, yes, if we continue the way we're going, we're not going to get anywhere. If not every single political party that's out there that's not the Liberals, Conservative, Green Party, NDP doesn't gather together to give people power, we're going to have a very hard time, because we don't have the numbers. We don't have the money. Well, let's talk about money for a moment. If we don't have a registered political entity, okay, how the hell can we move multiple millions of dollars for marketing? How the hell can we do that with tax breaks and with all these scam things they set up with all these political party structures so that political parties can benefit? We need to benefit from these same things that they've set up to control us. So why not we use these same things to get the new message out of direct democracy and everyone working together? I mean, to me, I'm very optimistic. I do believe that we'll all get together, and eventually, I'm hoping in the next federal election, which could be 2 months, could be in October, but I'm hoping that we can all get together and form one push. With all the ridings are full, we're under a good brand that people can say, hey, I think I know those people, but they don't. But they're just their brains. We can make them think they know us. And then we can just move forward and actually make this happen. I really do think it's possible, because I've wasted now. Well, I shouldn't say wasted. That sounds terrible. But since 2008, I've been doing this. And I thought, it would take maybe 5 years to start a political party and go somewhere. And let's just say it's a little longer than that. I've got gray hair now. So, time's running out.
Are you guys aware of the registered third parties and the amount of them in the province of Ontario? Then go look at who those people are. Of the 34 registered party, I think it's at 21 now are public service unions, auto sector, pharma, dairy. Those are the registered. And each one of those registered third party people can spend $750,000 of advertising to run these campaigns without directly mentioning an individual party or an individual candidate. And if you're not aware of the third party advertising, you can see what we're up against in social media, exactly what James was talking about in regards to the amount of money. They still have to follow the same rules. But if I won $50 million tomorrow, I can start 10 of these organizations funded at $750,000 a piece. And as long as they don't say, Mark Snow, we're Libertarian, but they talk about all those ideas, that's how our elections are being stolen. No, you can't corporately donate, but the teachers union has 11 of them in there. Public sector union has 11 of them in there. It's nuts.
So what other changes do you guys
let's say
going forward? Sorry, James.
Well, I'll just say one more thing. I think there's about 1 million people in the country. There's at least 1 million people in this country that are frustrated, don't like what's going on. At least there has to be 1 million. Am I correct? There has to be.
I would say at least.
Minimum, yeah.
If we set up a federal minimum, okay. Now let's say we set up a federal party that everyone here in this group, or everyone together, Derek Sloan, everyone that's around, says we're going to push this one party move forward. And we say, listen, everyone give us $20 that is frustrated, okay, to a federal party, so we can put billboards up across the 401, flyer everywhere, throw barbecues, whatever we have to do to start beating drums, playing guitars, whatever it takes. I think we could get 1 million people to give $20. I think we could. I mean, I spend $20 walking out the door buying, I don't know, chips now. So, like, I think we can, muster $20 a person.
That's why the federal government came after the truckers' money, because it terrified them that they were able to raise $10 million in 2 weeks. And then they stole it. And then they raised another $10 million in 5 days. You know how terrifying to that is to them? Because the Liberals only had about $7 million in the bank at the time. money wins elections.
But that's what I'm saying.
People don't really understand
federal parties have protection.
Why they came after the bank accounts. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why
that's what I'm trying to explain. A federal registered party cannot be attacked. Yeah, they can't be attacked. A federal registered party can take as much money as they want, and they can't take it away from you. How the hell could they take it away from a registered federal party? They can't. There's laws set up to protect them, so we can use their own scam against themselves.
So what other problems are you guys hearing from your constituents that you think need to be addressed? Should you win or get invited anywhere else? What else are you talking about, or what are you hearing about? Florian?
Well, a lot of people don't even have a doctor in my riding, so that's a big issue. Yeah, same here. I moved out. I had a doctor in Toronto. I moved out in 2020, and I tried to find a doctor, and the Ontario Health put me on a waiting list. And every month I get a letter in the mail saying, "Yep, you're still on the waiting list," and nope, we still haven't found you a doctor.
Yeah, mine retired, so that's that.
That's that.
That's that.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
That's one of the key points that, of course, the board talk about is healthcare and how we're going to fix it. But I really want to address this. 40 years they've been saying they're going to fix it. Doug Ford took over in 2018 with $64 billion budget. Today it's $78 billion budget, and outcomes are 50% worse. Why? And the reason why is simply this, is because we don't own it. I'm a libertarian. I want a private care system, but it terrifies me the thought of a US-based private care system.
Right.
So how do we fix this? Alan Small brought it up. We've improved upon it. I wrote a new platform. It's simple. We attach the funding. Today's value of that for every person in Ontario is $5,620. We attach that funding to the person. We reinstitute the 14 LHINs. 100% of your funding you can direct to the LHINs. Matter of fact, the people will direct it to the LHINs. The board members on the LHINs are appointed by the government. We will elect the board members from the community within the LHINs area. In my area here in the Ottawa region, it goes all the way from Renfrew down to Brockville over to Cornwall. That's over just under 2 million people. So that means what's 2 million times that? We're going to get about twice as amount of money. Elect the boards, hold elections for the hospitals from within the communities in which they reside. And the three things that does is it removes the funding and the power of the unions and the power of the politicians to be able to make decisions. It puts it back into the hands of the people. And no more can any politician say that I will fix the problem, because they won't own the money and they won't own the authority. The last thing that you do to round out the balance of this situation is within the LHINs, no longer will the province control the amount of doctors coming in, RNs, RPNs, and floor positions, because the boards will hold the balance of the money, and they will be able to look at their budgets and say, this is the needs within the riding. In 8 years' time, we can create a doctor. We'll pay for his full residency, and they can even pay for his full doctor internship. I know it's anti-libertarian, but I'm about fixing things to see if we can make them work before we can privatize them. And yes, it's still going to take tax dollars money. But the simple fact is that we can own the healthcare system and take that power away from politicians, the NDP, the board, as Jean has coined it right from the get-go. Jean was the coiner of that phase. If we can take it away from them, then we own it, and nobody can make promises or run on elections on it anymore. And your independent, empowered MPP will be able to make all those decisions with his community-based council. Just imagine that. Mm-hmm. There wouldn't even be a need for a party system anymore. There wouldn't be a need for people to even talk about this, because it would work and nobody would control it but the people and the boards that were elected by the people.
Mm-hmm. Well, throw in over-the-counter ivermectin and I'm in. For sure.
Go to India, you'll get it free there.
That's it.
I've got the annoying cat that wants in, wants out, wants in, wants out.
That's it.
James, is there something that you see that you would like to do with the, should your party get in? You're on mute. There you go.
Yes, I'm muted now. I think that if I was to win this election, I would just probably work directly trying to get funding to eliminate homelessness. Try to open up some zoning so I could just basically eliminate homelessness in Kingston basically in a year. It'd be pretty easy to do if I just had land to build legally. That's the problem you're having. You never can find land to build what you want to build legally. They always say, oh, again, it's got to be a minimum of 600 square feet, or oh, it's got to have this, oh, it's got to have that. But so it's not feasible. You can't spend $200,000 to house one homeless person when there's 5,000 of them. So you just got to make it so you build them a structure, they get in it, and then you eliminate homelessness. You eliminate so many problems. You eliminate crime. I'll give you an example. I was at my house in Kingston campaigning. I put my suit in my car, and I was helping my daughter with her homework. I come back out, my suit is gone. Maybe they thought it was like there's money in it, or in my wallet. It was just gone, right from my driveway, 10 seconds. So obviously we got an issue here. So eliminating homelessness, you eliminate so many social problems, depression, and people can actually get jobs, because you can't really go get a job if you live on the street because you smell like BO. No one hires you. That's a problem. So we have to figure that part out. And I think if I get elected, I can easily work with Doug Ford. I'm like, hey, if you give me land, I can get all these people off welfare. You don't have to pay anyone anymore. Oh, really? And I could get them really happy to stop spending money on homeless people, and they'll probably give me something to build somewhere. So yeah, I think that homelessness and drug use and all this stuff, depression, mental health, even physical health, your immune system, all that crap, it all runs around depression and not having what you want and not having any happiness. So usually if you're struggling to even survive, pay your rent, struggle to get food, struggle to feed your family, struggle, you're usually sick in the head and sick in the body. So if we fix that stuff, then I think a lot of people will do better. And I think I could solve that even if it was an independent, while a person sitting is the only person in my party. I think I could lobby, because I'd be rubbing shoulders with these people that don't know what they're doing. I could convince them it'll save them money to get people to be off the street. They don't have to waste money on ambulances and fire trucks and police, and the amount of money I think what was it $120,000 per person it costs in ambulances, healthcare, and police a year if you're on the street. Imagine that money, all that resources being burned just because you get the same police call for the same person twice a month. So yeah, I think I could do something. That's the way I would do it. Just hit them for zoning, change the zoning. And that's so I could once I had the zoning changed, I wouldn't need anything else. If you allow me to build somewhere, I can find the money, I can find the structures to build them, but I got to be allowed to build them. That's the problem.
What listen to what he's saying, because it's no different than what Steve Clark was saying in the 2 debates that we were allowed in. I'll talk to the minister. I'll talk to Doug Ford. I'll talk to who, and I'll talk to there. Well, that's the problem. Your MPPs have no power. The easiest way, and Gene might not be aware of this policy, but it's wrote, we didn't approve it because they called the election, is we are going to reinstitute land patent grants. And I don't know if you know what land patent grants are. Land patent grants are how Canada was settled. Come to the New World and we'll give you 100 acres of land.
I remember them.
Ontario has 639 million acres of land, of which 63 million of it's within 1.5 hours of the U.S. border. We'll give away 1 to 5 to 10 acre parcels, and 3 conditions. 1, you must occupy the land within 2 years. 2, you must have an approved waste recovery system for your septic. And 3, you cannot sell it for 5 years. Now, I want you to think about this, because everybody can adopt this as part of their platform policy.
Yeah.
The Ontario Building Code will no longer apply to private property under a libertarian government. If you're a commercial builder, you can go ahead and you're going to follow the Ontario Building Code because we want you to have a safe product. But if you want to live in a tent, a yurt, a tiny home, or an RV, that will be your prerogative and your right under a libertarian government. Because, like I said, the Ontario Building Code, if you want to live in a mud brick house heated with seal oil from club seals off the coast of Newfoundland, go right ahead. Because that just drives the greenies mad when I say that.
Yeah,
But the point is, instead of spending $15 or $150 billion like Doug Ford is saying, you'll create $1 trillion worth of asset wealth almost overnight, as quick as you can issue these. Buy your MPP who has the authority to do it, and we will pay for the survey.
Yeah.
Because this way, we're going to give our youth hope. There's no hope for youth today. My kids are 22 and 28. They have no hope of ever owning a home. This gives instant wealth, $15,000 to $24,000 or $24,000 to $52,000 per acre for vacant land, depending in the province where it is. 5 acres, you're talking $100,000 worth of equity. Take a $40,000 loan, put it in your basement the first year. The next year, frame in the house. The third year, by the 5th year, you have an actual functioning house. And the building code won't apply. In my region, Ottawa region, the minimum square foot house that you can build is 1,800 square feet. They're just doing amendments now provincially that allow you to build a 1,200 square foot house. But it's by special permit only. So why are we building 1,800 square foot feet? I know people in my 40s that I talk to about this policy that would gladly get out of their rent. That's the problem. The rent that the kids are paying today is a direct result of all the money problems that you were talking about created by government.
Right.
Give them land, get the hell out of the way, and let them develop their wealth, because our children are never going to have the wealth that we have.
Right.
Great.
Give them land, get out of the way, let them go.
That's good. That's
Agreed.
good.
Wow.
All right, gentlemen, it's time that we start wrapping up. Let's give you each, a minute or so. Like, what thoughts do you want to leave with people?
Why should people vote for you?
That's right. And yeah. So, Gene, let's start with you. Like, give us your final thoughts.
All right. I'm still a Libertarian, just so you know. I may be running as an independent because how's Zach Tisdale doing, Mark? I had let Zach Tisdale run for me instead in this riding. I still believe in the principles of the Libertarian Party, but I still believe that the biggest problem we have is too much government. I'm happy to be actually running this time as an independent, just because I'm free to do it without, there's a lot of people don't understand what that libertarian is. And so they hear the term and they scratch their head, or they've heard that we're part of Antifa or some other crazy thing. And I've been trying to back away from that for a while. I want to stay away from a term that I think confuses people. And so I'm very happy to be able to produce. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm promoting Frank Stronach's platform. So this is Frank Stronach's brochure. I've been working with Frank for a while now. He's got 7 economic principles that I believe in. Well, 6 out of the 7 I believe in. And so I'm promoting those ideas. But that's the nice thing about the Libertarian or the independence, is that I'm free to stand up in front of people and say what I believe without thinking twice about it. And also without the association with a party that people don't understand. But mostly because the party system, I think, has failed us. I think that the party system is part of the problem, maybe a big part of the problem. That if I ever did get elected, which is a pipe dream, but if I ever did, the only people that I would be accountable to would be the people in my riding, nobody else. There's no party whip, there's no party philosophy, there's nothing to do that would take me away from the things that are important to my constituents. And that's one of the reasons why I'm happy to be running as an independent right now.
Awesome.
But other than that, I've been writing. I'm an IT guy by background. Spent 40 years in IT. I wrote an ebook a couple of years ago called Digital Direct Democracy. It's a set of ideas that I really believe in, and I'm actually promoting it aggressively this time because I think that we live in a digital age. We live with digital technology and artificial intelligence and a bunch of other things. And because I spent 40 years in IT interviewing IT professionals, I've got a much stronger understanding of what the potential of that is and how much it can benefit us in our electoral democracy. So I'm passionate about it, but I'm having difficulty trying to get the message out to people because it's not an easy thing to describe. It's something that it takes a little bit of time to be able to get it out. And most people don't have the patience to listen to something that is conceptually very simple, but I think, they want to know more. And a lot of people are afraid of AI, for example, and I'm not. So my message is that I'm out there simply to do nothing more than to get a message out to people that says that our biggest problem is too much government. And all I'm trying to do is get people to consider that, to think about it. That's all. There's no other ballot choice in my riding except for the Libertarian Party that says that I don't want big government anymore. I've had enough. The only choices I have are Libertarian and Jean Balfour, and that's it. So I'm hoping that they'll look at that.
Awesome. Florian, you're up.
All right. Well, I joined the Ontario Party because they champion things like integrity, honesty, and transparency. And I don't want to disagree with anything these guys say because they're a lot smarter than I am. And but absolutely, I'm all about cutting corruption and cutting costs. And yeah, it's the things, the Borg and all the things that the way things are running is just not working. And people are waking up and people want something different. And I'm just a regular person. I'm just standing up for that, giving them the ability to vote for something other than the Borg. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
You're an IT guy, Florian, so we need to talk to you, buddy.
Yes, absolutely. We'll get on that right after.
That's right.
See, already you guys are working together.
Yeah.
There you go.
Something's happening.
Something's happening. Change is happening.
Mark, you want to unmute yourself and let us know your final thoughts?
Again, I do apologize. I thought I was double booked, but I thought this was all one for some reason. I believe that there is change coming. I believe in the Libertarian Party, both federally and provincially. I will be running as a candidate federally as well. There has to be.
You're going to win provincially, so no, you won't be.
Yeah.
Well,
if I don't win provincially, yes, that's true. But there has to be options. People generally only see us on the ballot and ask who that is, or at the door you hear Liberal. No, I don't vote Liberal, or that's what they hear is Liberal. Yeah. I believe the policies that we have currently sitting before us that haven't been released are going to be the main show. We have to decentralize Queen's Park power, and we have to return our democracy. Remember, democracy in a room of 100 people is 51 people voting to kill the other 49%. That is direct democracy. I mean, let's talk about what is democracy. If the person you elect doesn't have power, you're not democracy. It's a puppet court. And I think the way to reach through to people, because I know it's certainly resonating. We've had candidates meetings. I've pulled them all in and told them this policy, and they're out there running with it right now in regards to empowering your MPP, and people like it. It's not going to make a difference, and I don't mean that negatively, because I only got 17 candidates running, but people are listening, and I'm seeing that in outreach and what people want to talk about. So I'll keep plugging away. I'll keep leading as long as they want me to leave, until we can get a really nice young person like a Florian or Chris Guerra or Daniel Calbretta, the candidate in our riding, to take over and come join us. And we have the structure, we have the longevity, and we have the people. We just need to gather all these people together and put them out as a 124 riding candidacyship, or a 338 federal one. Take your pick. I think we do more as one as we do with the other, but how do we get there? I don't know. I just want to say thank you again, and I do apologize. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on here, and I do apologize. I apologize.
Yeah, sorry, we're just glad you made it.
It's okay. Yeah. I know we know your schedules are crazy busy.
Yeah.
You know, we go to the polls on Thursday, so I expect your schedules to be busy, and I expect you to be there campaigning and doing interviews. So I'm glad you were late. I'm sad you were late, but I'm glad you were late because you were doing work. James. And we know you're campaigning now too. So thank you for joining us on Story Your Internet has been crappy.
Well, yeah, I'm campaigning for a gentleman that's really interested. I came to help him. He's running as an independent, and he's coming across issues with being an independent, because people they have a hard time with independence because if they can't, there's no brand. It's hard to donate money to help you. and people are used to, franchises and, like Mark said, he goes to the door. Oh, we don't like Liberal Party. Oh, he's like, no, I'm not. I'm a libertarian. And then it's such a waste of time to have to explain to simple humans like dummies like myself what to do. If you're just like, okay, direct democracy, go on YouTube, see what it is. It's different. Like even Gene knows all about it, how to use the digital format, like a better system than my internet tonight, okay, to like put direct democracy forward, that we can, we can get voting on our phones rather than wait for some politician that's being bribed to vote a certain way. Everyone in the constituency in the riding gets a text message say, hey, do you want to have, let's get a good one. Let's say, do you want to lock down for a pandemic? Yes or no? And most people will be like, no, thank you very much. I want to be moving around. So right away, I, as a direct democracy representative, would go to the parliament or the legislature and be like, you know what? Everyone in my riding said no. 66% said no. 75% said no. So I'm voting no. And then, you can make thresholds that, it wouldn't just be 51%. If you're getting 51% response, you'd be like, okay, we only got 51. So we're not quite sure which way the coin lies here. So I'm going to abstain from this vote until I get a very clear picture from my constituents about what's happening. So I believe that if one person gets elected under direct democracy, could be in Ontario, and yeah, please vote for me, or you can, continue doing the definition of insanity, keep doing the same thing and expecting another outcome by voting for these mainstream parties, which people seem to do. But if you vote for me, yes, I will be the spark that can spark the whole country towards direct democracy. And I believe everyone here wants the same thing, but we just have to get behind a brand that even monkeys would want to follow, because I'm a friggin' monkey. I eat bananas, but I want to have freedom. I want to be left alone in this country. I want to be able to make money and not be taxed for no reason. I mean, I should be allowed to make money. Here, you borrow money to survive because you don't pay tax on it. And if you make money, it's like you're suffering because you have to give all the money to the government and they spend it on things that you don't want to spend on. So it's like the whole country is out of control. We need to get to direct democracy. So please vote for me. Thanks a lot for having this lovely event here. And I hope we all can work together. I do need to reach out to you guys. You can find me online somewhere or just rattle someone's cage. You can find me. But let's just work together and this brand one thing that works and just take the country back and we can all retire somewhere. Okay.
Hey, James, before you go, that's a book I wrote. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's called Digital Direct Democracy, which is very different than the understanding of what most people think of direct democracy, mm-hmm. because it's driven by a computer architecture that I've designed. It's only 36 pages long. It's basically a white paper on changing our democracy using digital technology. That's what this is. So if you're interested, pick it up and read it.
It's on Amazon as well. It's available.
It's on Amazon. Yeah.
So I just want to say, sorry, Chris, before you go.
Yeah, you have my number, Gene. Feel free to. You have my number, right?
No, I don't, but I can get it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got all your numbers. I can share it with you guys. That's fine. But I just want to say thank you to Kellyanne Wolf, who connected us with Gene, and to James. And thank you to Chris Guerra, who connected us with Mark Snow. And thank you to Derek Sloan, who connected me with Florian, because you guys are really difficult to find, even on the internet when I was searching your names.
So Elections Ontario is not listing New Blue, Ontario Party, Independents, or Libertarians, even though they have all the information to put it in there. They do not.
Correct, because that's the first place I went, and I noticed there's a whole lot of names that have a link and take you right to them. None of your names had a link that take you right to you guys.
Right.
So I just wanted to give a big shout out to Derek Sloan, Chris Guerra, and Kellyanne Wolf, who managed to have all of your contacts and hook us up. So thank you, and thank you guys. I know you're right in the middle of hardcore crunch time before the election, so thank you for giving us your time and allowing us to get your voices out there and to introduce your parties and your stances and give people another choice outside of the board. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks to the both of you, because what you're doing is really, really important, very important. So thank you both for doing what you're doing.
Most welcome. I just want to say a quick thank you to Michael, who's been a rock star behind the scenes, making sure this show is running smoothly. Michael, our producer extraordinaire. So thank you, Michael, in the background there. All right, everybody, go vote, vote, vote. And instead of not voting as a protest, go and vote for someone else as a protest. Vote for a non-party as a protest. You want to do something, then don't throw your vote away. Just go and do something.
Don't vote for the Borg. Vote for one of these
Exactly.
guys.
Right. Yeah.
Say
You want to
no-
protest? This is the best.
Say no to the board, guys.
For the Borg.
Yeah.
You know, and I looked, and there's at least one of these guys, whether it's an independent, a libertarian, a New Blue, an Ontario party, a direct democracy. There is at least one of these candidates in every single riding.
Right.
You might not have the option of all 5 or 6, but there is definitely at least an option in every riding. Vote for change, guys. Vote for
Right.
change.
You want to stick
And
to the man.
watch out for Chris Garrett, because that's an up and comer. And James, I believe I met you in North Bay at a Freedom rally.
So yeah, you want to stick to the man, then send one of these annoying little gnats to go and yell at them for for 24/7. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Get out and vote. Go and check these guys out. We've given you the contact information all the way through the show, so go check them out and do your best to make the right decision on election day.
Good luck, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.